See ya.
Yep.
Crowbar Kernel Panic, episode 38. Discord is in the show notes. We are live streaming on YouTube. Oh, we're not live streaming. We're pre-recording, and we're going to be posting this to YouTube and to anywhere you can find podcasts. The audio podcast has been doing good, even while we've been away. We've still been getting.
Well, that's good.
We've still been getting downloads, so that's good to know, dude. Podcast listeners are solid. YouTube viewers are fickle.
I don't think it's YouTube viewers. I don't think it's the viewers.
Yeah.
I think it's YouTube itself. It's just stupid. The whole thing.
I think it's just I don't know. I think you got to like really compete in the algorithm.
You really do. You got to like just game the system, or else you're done.
Right. Well, speaking of which, please like and subscribe, comment on this video. So this episode is going to be a bit of a free form one. We haven't gotten together in a while, and truth be told, we really were not prepared for this episode. But it's just been too long, so we didn't want to miss it. I had COVID.
Yeah, you had a lot going on.
Yeah, I've also was going through a transition at work. Well, this week, my first week in the new position.
Nice.
Everything is great. I get to work from home like 80% of the time. I actually think it's going to give me a lot more free time. Like I was busy there for a while I was trying to do both, trying to juggle both positions.
Right.
But now that I'm completely settled in one, I think this is going to be, it's going to give me a lot more free time to do things like this.
Probably so. Yeah.
You're also going through a new transition, which could be the opposite. You're eating up time, baby.
Yeah. Well, so this is the thing. The first month of this is going to be like go 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 go, because the guy I'm helping out has been backed up with work, because he's been his own manager and his support for his whole entire group. So now we're going through the backlog and doing all these things. So once that month's over, I'm going to have 2 days of work from home that I can use. So that'll be super nice. So I think in the long run, this is going to be good for both of us and the podcast. So
we got to get through the hurdle though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Well, anyway, it's good to be on the other side of it. And, you can't complain about having good work.
No.
So, let's see. Where do we want to start first? We've got, I can give you a little bit of an ARC update, I guess.
Yeah. Let's get that out of the way, because nothing much has changed on my end, at least.
Well, not for me, not much has changed. So with kernel 6.1 and with the most up-to-date Mesa drivers, I was having the flashing screen problem. That was where we left off in the ARC saga. Right now I'm still on Windows, but I did make some headway. So I found a setting, and it wasn't specific to the ARC A770. It was just a lot of times people with Intel, especially on integrated graphics on laptops, would have this screen flickering issue. Because I started thinking, maybe this is an Intel thing. I've never had an Intel card before. It could just be some sort of Intel issue with my motherboard or with, there's something there.
Yeah.
And so I just took ARC A770 out of my search, and I just started looking up Intel graphics, flickering screen, Fedora 35 or whatever.
That's smart.
Yep. I found that there was a setting. I'll put it in the show notes. I don't have it in front of me now to go through it, but there was a certain flag that you could set.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was some sort of auto adjust mechanism where Intel was trying to do some sort of adjustment based on your monitor's refresh rate or something. I don't know.
Right. Screen resolution, refresh, whatever, something like that. Yeah.
Right. And I just turned that off so that it wouldn't try to make that constant adjustment. It would just find one and stick to it.
Yeah.
And
even if it's wrong, it would still stick to it.
Right. And doing that, the screen flickering went away. And I thought my problem was solved. I thought that fixed everything. I can use my Linux drive now. And while I was starting to set things up and start using the system again, I had the screen just completely cut off and then came back on with a pop noise. Now the pop noise was because my speakers are running through the display port.
Well, that's good.
So it wasn't like my monitor popping and like breaking.
Capacitor gone.
And that happened like once, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of a weird thing. Let's see how far I get. But it started happening like more frequently, and and I just didn't feel comfortable on this extremely overpriced monitor that I have. I'm not trying to blow it up just to use Fedora over Windows. So that's where I'm stuck now. So the issue did improve by changing that flag, but it's not gone away completely. Now, I'm hopeful that this new release of Fedora 38, they're moving to is 6.2.
Yep.
And they are going to GNOME 44, which I don't think will have anything to do with my issue. But if they're going to 6.2, I'm hoping that they also have whatever it is that I'm missing to make this work, like is also baked in. So I'm looking forward to trying that. I haven't tried it yet.
Maybe even Wayland improvements will fix things too. I mean, you're trying this on X also, right? So
yeah, that's another thing too, is without that flag set, I couldn't even get X to load.
Oh,
so loading Wayland would give me screen flicker. X would just air out. It would never load.
Interesting.
And whenever I would do it from a terminal, so I could see if I had, if I found the standard out to the error message, it would say like it couldn't find display. And so the way I got around that was that definitely had to do with my monitor situation, because I still have I hooked up my old monitor. It's just a 1080 monitor, and it came up no problem. X loaded right away. I didn't even need to change that flag. So it's got something to do with my monitor and this graphics card.
Right. Okay.
I mean, my monitor worked fine before on my NVIDIA card.
Right.
So it's not like something like is like broken. It's just some sort of compatibility. There's something about, and this is like, I have an Alienware. It's the most advanced piece of hardware that I have on my computer is this crazy monitor. And so it's probably some, it's probably, I don't know, some HDR or something that is not
stupid
compatible.
Fangled technology.
I know. I should, there's a benefit to having, especially with things like monitors. Like there's a benefit to just having one that is like a good resolution and just does what it's supposed to do, and nothing
like
more.
A display. That's it. Not even nothing.
This one's got like LEDs that light up the wall behind you and all this kind of stuff. Like at the end of the day, I don't need any of that. I just need it to not flicker like crazy whenever I try to.
I just need it to display something, what it's meant to do.
Right. Yeah. So that's that's what I've been dealing with there. But yeah. So Fedora 38. Are you? How do you feel about GNOME 44? I haven't even used anything that has GNOME 44 yet.
Like I've said, I've been using Fedora Rawhide for probably about over a month now, I'd say.
Okay.
And number one, as cutting edge as it is, it's very stable. I haven't had one problem. And two, I really like where GNOME is going now, because now they finally, I mean, they should have had this before, but they finally have like system tray items again. They're in the drop down on the where the power menu is and everything. They're in there, all your running apps.
Yeah.
Well, so they're not displayed on the screen like at all times like Windows has them, but you can get to them.
Yeah, and some distros would flavor that in to their
I mean, you can add it in. Yeah, you can add it in with extensions. I mean, that you could. I mean, you can extend GNOME to be like Plasma basically if you really wanted to. But is it going to work when it updates? That's the problem.
That's what I always felt like in the early days of GNOME. Whenever they switched, was that it was like you could doctor it up, but by the time you had everything set the way you wanted it, you had like 30 extensions. And I think to really get the best performance out of it, you want to have minimal extensions. But there's some things that it didn't have before that maybe I wonder if they're doing some sort of study where they're like, well, most of our users tend to add that extension, so maybe there's a way we can just make that a part of GNOME, and you don't have to use the extension.
I think they are now starting to see. So before, I believe they were going the opposite way, where they were like, all right, we're stripping everything out and we're going to do it the way we want. And now I feel like they're going into this transition period where they're starting to listen to the people who use it, and I don't think they're 100%, listening to everyone, but they're definitely somewhat listening to add features in that people like actually need. It's not a want, it's a need, like Discord. You exit out of Discord, it's still running in the background and you have no clue where is it. I don't know. So like that's definitely a need to have. So yeah, I like it. There's better Bluetooth and Wi-Fi controls. It has a little more granular, almost kind of like a little Android-ish, maybe, I guess you could say, where there's like little drop downs and stuff like that within the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all that stuff. Some power options. I think they had the power option before. Like if you have an Intel, obviously if you have AMD, it doesn't work. But if you have Intel, you can choose between performance, regular, whatever, I don't know, medium, whatever, and then low power savings, whatever. But for Ryzen, I don't have that option, unfortunately, but whatever. There is a bunch of other stuff that they added into, little things here and there, but
it's I think I like the way Gnome's been going, and I'm hoping.
Yeah, I like the way Gnome's been going. I like the way Fedora's been going. Ubuntu had a release recently. I could care less. I'm like, what's Ubuntu? What is that?
Maybe I should try that, dude. I would try anything. If my monitor starts flickering on your distro, I'll be a fan for life. Someone needs to someone out
fix
there
the ARC problem.
Yeah, someone needs to make an Intel Alienware distro that's like just for my setup.
Yep. But specifically on ARC with my setup, even on Rawhide, which is on 6.3. whatever kernel. I mean, I think it's on RC8 now or something like that. Even with that, I still only have one monitor working. That's crazy. Other one, what was that?
I said that's crazy.
Yep. I mean, and it's using Mesa, the Git Mesa, so it's as high, basically as cutting edge as you can get.
Yeah.
It's even more cutting edge than Arch, unless of course you like custom, add in the Git repos and stuff. But my second monitor still it's basically like 480p. Just a little tiny square on the side.
But you got something at all though? That's crazy.
I do have a second monitor, and the first monitor works perfectly fine. So I'm happy with that, but the problem is I can't do like podcasts or too much gaming with it because I like to have my Discord over here or my like game guide or whatever, because I'm, I don't really care about all that trying to find my stuff myself. If I get too frustrated with the game, I'll look it up. But
that's crazy. That's so bizarre to me that it detects it and it even displays
it just says
video
generic
there.
Display. It doesn't say like anything else, and I'm just like,
I feel like our two issues have to be related somehow. Like once they fix, there's some tweak.
Yep.
There's a 0 that should be a 1 somewhere, and then both of our problems are going to resolve.
I feel like the Windows versus Linux like development in Intel right now is like a 90-10 split, if not 95-5 split, because I mean they're killing it on Windows. I mean they are putting out
I love this graphics card
update.
I
Dude, me too.
Every episode is going to be the same until we finally find a fix for this. But like, I love this graphics card. It's running games great on Windows. I think it's the best buy that you like. It's such 100% a perfect best investment if you are a Windows gamer. But like, I really don't. I want to be back on Fedora, and it just is. It's just a struggle, but it will get there. It will get there.
It will, and I think 6.4 is going to be at least the start of getting there, because I feel like
that has to be it.
Then they are going to add all this stuff, because that's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing 6.4 is when they're really going to start adding all these driver updates into the kernel.
I'm not trying to be like pessimistic, but let me be a little pessimistic here for just a minute. We said all that about 6.2.
Yep, we did. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
We said all the same stuff. So I believe it when I see it. Whenever it happens, we'll report on the show, and then there's going to be a boom in ARC A770 purchases.
At least now there's like multiple articles that I've seen that Intel has actually talked about this with. So at least there's a little more hope, but I mean, Yeah.
Well, I can still Linux game. I can still do some Linux gaming on my Steam Deck.
Just has a seizure warning a little bit. Oh yeah, on your Steam Deck. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. I can
that
play
thing. What's that?
I can play any game on my Linux system with the flashing screen as long as I just pretend like it's like some kind of hard mode or something, you know?
Yeah, hard mode.
if I blink at the same rate, then it'll work. I put it in front of some kind of fan or something.
What's your blink rate? What blink hertz do you got?
But Proton 8.0 release, so this is a big milestone release, big compatibility,
definitely a big one.
Improvement upgrade on many titles. The article I have up here doesn't have a full list, but I think probably the most noteworthy is Dead Space, the remake.
Yep.
They improved support for the Steam Deck, but of course, it'll improve for Linux desktop as well. And man, I should have purchased Deep Space. I mean, I still can. There's nothing keeping me from it now. But I think I'm gonna have to pick up Dead Space on the PC. Whenever it came out, it came out before, but not far from. It was like a stone's throw away from Resident Evil 4. And I have just loved all the Resident Evil remakes that have come out so far.
Right.
And I really felt like that was the way to go. And also, this past year, I purchased a PlayStation 5 from a coworker. And so I was like, man, instead of getting it on PC, I should buy it on PlayStation 4, because so far I've got a PlayStation 5 and like I don't have any games for it. I never play it. My wife plays it all the time. My son plays it, but like literally I don't have any games. I have games that I already have on PC. Like I have Final Fantasy the Final Fantasy 7 remake. It's part of PlayStation, their monthly subscription thing on so I have it on the PS5 also, but like there's not a game on the PlayStation that I don't already have in Steam. So like there's nothing. So I said, well, I'll buy Resident Evil 4 for the PlayStation. That way I'm also playing a Resident Evil game on PlayStation. It feels right, And I gotta say it's a great game, but like I should have got it for PC, because like I never get to use the PlayStation. My wife is always on the PlayStation, so I should have got it on the PC. And I'm also thinking, it is so similar. It's a really good remake. I'm sure most people that are interested in it have already picked it up and probably already beaten it by now.
No, what are you talking about?
I haven't got to play it. I'm still in the first chapter. It's a really good remake. It feels so nostalgic.
Yeah.
But yet it is different. It's modernized in a big way. And this is the same kinds of things I'm hearing about Dead Space, is that it's
definitely
nostalgic to the original, but it's way more modernized and
I just heard that the atmosphere is so much more like creepy, I guess. Like even though the first one was definitely that creep factor was there.
I bought there was a bundle that happened where you could buy the original games, like the whole set for like less than $20.
Right.
And I haven't installed them, but I bet if I went back and played that first game, it wouldn't feel as atmospheric as I remembered it feeling back then.
I mean, I played through it like pretty recently, probably within, like 2 or 3 years, probably like that.
Yeah.
And it might have been a little longer than that, but it was within 5 years, definitely. And I mean, it still holds up. It does. I mean, maybe right now at this very moment, it might be a little bit,
well, now it's going to get compared to the remake.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Make it feel really dated, but before that, yeah.
Right. Exactly. I think it's still pretty good. But yeah, that's definitely one I kind of want to pick up, because I love the Dead Space series. Like I played all 3 of them. Is there 4?
Yes.
I think. Yeah. I didn't play the fourth.
I only played the first one.
I played the first 3, and that's it. Then
there was also recently a game that came out that was like very similar to Dead Space.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what it was called, but I remember hearing about it.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm having a Mandela effect, because apparently Dead Space 4 was canceled in 2013.
Okay. Yes, now I remember. Yes, I was hyped for 4. I remember this. and then they canceled it. And I was one of those people that were just like, screw EA, you know, they can rot, whatever, yada yada.
Yeah, I'm looking at my my Steam. Because when I said that, I doubted myself, and so I went and looked at my Steam library. Yeah, and it only goes up to 3.
Yep.
Well, they also list improvements to Final Fantasy 14, which I have, you know, I don't have it turned on now, but I have had a Final Fantasy 14 subscription like since the game first. They did like sort of like a rebirth kind of thing. And it has ran great on Linux like basically the whole time that it's been released. So I don't know what improvements they made, but it was running great before. But I think there was recently some changes that might have like messed up the launcher.
Yeah, I was gonna say any game like that, like we both know, if it's an online game, there's gonna be breaking stuff all the time. Yep.
Yeah, I think the launcher broke for a while. I actually even remember us talking about how to fix it on the show.
Yeah.
I bet that is the improvement. I bet they fixed the launcher.
I'm sure that's probably it, because it's the same with Witcher. When the Witcher 4.0 update came out with ray tracing and all that, they had a launcher now, which makes me launchers, just don't even get me started on launchers. I hate all launchers. But anyway, they had a launcher, and you had to disable the launcher to actually get it to run. It's like, come on, people. Let's just not be stupid and not put freaking random launchers and all this crap.
A lot of times those things like use some kind of weird browser or something that they can't like port to Proton.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so improvements to Proton 8, and I wonder if Glorious Eggroll already has his Proton 8 GE out.
I mean, with him, probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
I'm just going to see what Proton GE is out. It's probably already out. So one of the main topics I wanted to do on this episode I thought would be fun, because I knew we had kind of a wishy-washy episode coming up, because I knew that neither one of us had time to really prepare any news items or anything like that. We have a growing we're starting to get suggestions for Godot engine, because we talked about Unity a lot. You've been playing with RPG Maker. I feel like we need to lean into this game dev thing more. And with all the stuff going on in my life recently, I've not done any game development. I actually did work on my game a little bit when I had COVID, but not a lot. So I want to try to do more check-ins with that, and I want to do like a Godot. I might download Godot because it's free, and play around with it, because I want to switch to it, but I just already feel invested in Unity. I've already bought like packages and stuff for Unity, and I don't want that to go to waste. And I'm like, I want to at least finish one game on Unity before I try something else.
I know exactly what you mean, dude.
But that could be a sunk cost fallacy, right? Like it could be the thing where it's like, because I spent money in it, I'm going to end up sticking with this.
Yeah, and then it's not going to be what you want.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. I think I should try it out just to see.
Yeah, I totally get you there.
Like if I could choose one to love, I think I would rather love Godot than Unity. But also, I'm interested in RPG Maker again. I know that
the new one's coming out. Yeah.
I'm waiting on that.
Eventually, it's coming out. I'm probably not going to get it just because it's going to be pretty expensive at first, but you know.
Yeah, I'll wait till it goes on sale. It always goes.
Yeah, which might be a while, but
there was a sale not too long ago, but I saw an RPG Maker sale recently, but at the time I didn't have any money, so I was like, even though it's on sale, I'm not buying.
Yep, I know what you mean there. I mean, to be honest, if I would go back, I would probably do what you said too, and got the better, the more up to date version than the one I got, because it does hold you back a little bit, even though people did kind of say that it was worse, but at the same time, I don't think it really is.
I'm with you. I made the same mistake, so we're in the same boat together. But so my interesting, fun topic for this episode, I wanted to talk about ChatGPT and game development. So everybody is like, ChatGPT is like all the craze now. Everybody's worried that it's going to take over every attorney's job. No one's going to need to write anything anymore because you can just ask ChatGPT to write it.
Yep.
And I've been playing around with it. I've actually been using it, like legitimately using it to write show descriptions. Not for, actually, I think I did do one for our most recent episode of the podcast. But the podcast that I've been doing, Fireside Palaver, with a buddy of mine, we're reading fantasy books, fantasy novels, and we just review fantasy novels. I wrote almost every one of those descriptions using ChatGPT.
Nice. That's awesome.
And I don't take, what I do is I tell it the content of the show. Then I ask it what would be like good buzzwords, like what would be good tags to tag on a YouTube video that was about this subject. And then I'll say, help me write a description for the video using those tags, and then it'll write some cheesy description.
Right.
And then I'll copy that and then paste it, but then I'll change it so that it sounds more like my natural speaking language.
Right.
But I did some game dev stuff. I haven't used any of this, and we could talk about it on the show, and I don't care if somebody uses it because I'm not going to. But one of the first things I tried was I said, well, I wonder if ChatGPT could help me come up with a plot for a video game. And
right.
I asked it, let me see if I can find, it came up with it. All right. It even came up with a name called Abyssal Gate. So I asked ChatGPT, I had just finished reading the book Hellmouth by Giles Christian, which is this historical fantasy. It's a short story. It's really short, but it's just about this, like, it's basically like a Diablo-esque, like, descent into hell to fight demons and stuff. And but it's based on this like real life historical legend.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I said to ChatGPT, I said, help me write a dark fantasy story similar to Hellmouth by Giles Christian. I want to make a survival horror game from this story. And so ChatGPT said, sure, I can help with that. And then it gave me a few different examples. So it says, title, The Cursed Well. Overview, the game takes place in a small village called Oakwood, which is hilarious because I went to Oakwood Elementary School when I was a kid.
Nice. Maybe it knows where you live and it just kind of picked that.
Yeah, it's like looking at all my details, finding stuff that'll please me. It's in a small village called Oakwood, located deep in a dense forest. The village is built around a mysterious well, which the villagers believe to be cursed. Strange occurrences have been happening in Oakwood lately, and the villagers are getting more and more anxious. You play as a stranger who has arrived in Oakwood seeking shelter from a storm, only to find that the curse of the well is real, and the village is now a breeding ground for unspeakable horrors. And it says Act 1, and it broke it up in the various acts.
Whoa, that's pretty cool.
The game, and it knows it's a game. The game starts with the player arriving in Oakwood, seeking shelter from a raging storm. The player can interact with the villagers, who are initially friendly, but seem to be hiding something. The player can explore the village and learn about the curse of the well, which is said to be the source of all the evil that plagues the village. The player can also find clues and tools that will be useful in surviving the horrors to come. Another interesting thing about how it's using Giles Christian's story. So Hellmouth, hence the title Hellmouth, is about this like mysterious well that's like in this like there's like a castle in the woods, but it's like a non-strategic place, and you eventually figure out that the castle's to hold something in, not to protect something, but to lock something in.
Yeah,
and
gotcha.
At the center of the castle is this like big open hole, and so it took that, and that's how it's relaying that by telling about this well in this village.
Interesting.
So, Act 2, The Descent. The player discovers
I wonder what that's going to do.
Yeah. The player discovers a hidden tunnel that leads down to the cursed well. As the player descends deeper into the tunnel, the atmosphere becomes more and more ominous. The player encounters the first monsters, which are grotesque mutations of the villagers who have succumbed to the curse. The player must use their wits and weapons to survive and navigate the labyrinthian tunnels leading to the cursed well. And that's so you can see how now it's bringing in some Resident Evil. It's it's got the some like Resident Evil 4 stuff. Maybe, yeah. And then but it reminds me of I can't think of the name right now. If it comes to me later, I'll bring it up. But there's a first person shooter that's made in this really like boomer shooter style. But it's this sort of thing where you're like kind of going through like this medieval village and having to shoot these cursed villagers. Act 3, The Abyss. The player reaches the cursed well, which is a portal to a hellish dimension of darkness and torment. The player must fight their way through hordes of demons and monsters, including the source of the curse, a powerful demon lord. The demon lord is invulnerable to weapons and can only be defeated by finding and destroying the artifacts that bind it to the mortal realm. The player must use their knowledge of the village's history and lore to find the artifacts and use them to defeat the villain lord. Yes, that's bringing in like you gotta go find a key. Cool. You gotta that's the Resident Evil stuff again.
Like you kind of like go to fight it, and then it's like, oh no, I can't defeat it. I have to figure out how to do this, and you got to go back.
I don't know. Maybe I should make this game. Actually, this is really good.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
So then, Act 4, the aftermath. So we're almost at the conclusion. The player emerges victorious, but scared from their encounter with the curse of the well. The village is in ruins, and the survivors are traumatized and distrustful. The player must decide whether to stay and help the survivors rebuild the village or leave and never look back. The conclusion. The Cursed Well is a survival horror game that takes the player on a journey. Oh, so it's just concluding all these acts and what it gave me. The Cursed Well is a survival horror game that takes the player on a journey through a dark and terrifying world of curses, demons, and unspeakable horrors. Inspired by Hellmouth by Giles Christian, the game combines elements of action, exploration, and puzzle solving to create truly immersive and unforgettable experience. Do you think this storyline would make for an engaging game? Oh, and I never answered it.
It even asks.
I'm going to say yes. I haven't tried.
Like, please give me your input.
It just said great. If you have any further questions, development, feel free. Wow.
Great. Now I'm going to use this to make 5,000 others that sound just like it.
Yeah, I asked it a few different scenarios of like, give me a fantasy version of Resident Evil. What would a fantasy version? I was just giving it like different survival horror games, but trying to put it in a fantasy setting. That actually, going back and rereading that one, that actually is really inspiring. And that's what I could say about ChatGPT that I've seen so far, is that like it seems, I made it do it twice. That was its second iteration. I just realized you can look at your history.
Yep.
Okay. So it's good for like inspiration, because I also used it for a D&D session, because what got me thinking about ChatGPT was whenever all of the discussion was going on around the Dungeons and Dragons
the movie
gaming license. No, the gaming license that they did. They had this big dilemma. It's all passed now, and it actually settled, I would say, amicably. But there was they have like an open gaming license with Dungeons and Dragons where developers can use their rule set and their game system and some of their world even, some of their actual like, you can't use everything in the Dungeons and Dragons IP, but they have certain things that are allowed, and they were using that to make their own content and publishing it third party.
Right.
And they threatened to revoke that. And they were trying to get people to sign on to this new license. And it was a really cool story that actually we probably should have talked about on here, because it was closely related to open source, and they actually used Linux as their example of how they wanted things to work.
Right.
And it was a really cool situation. Well, all that kind of got settled, and they're not revoking it now. They are coming out with like new content. They probably will have some sort of new license, but as far as what exists today, they're gonna keep under this same license. But one of the things that was brought up while all that was going on was that Wizards of the Coast was trying to introduce AI dungeon masters, and They were gonna like try to like get rid of the classic, you got a group that sits at a table and there's a dungeon master.
Right.
A lot of that was hyperbolic. I don't think Dungeons and Dragons never wants to get rid of that image. I think that image is what Dungeons and Dragons is, and I don't think they ever are trying to step away from that. But But that whole situation got me thinking about how could you use AI to in your games? Like how could you implement it? So I had a situation where my players in Dungeons and Dragons were given a choice, and based on if they went one way, they were going to basically be leaving my campaign entirely and going into the Underdark. If they went another way, they would continue my campaign, but even still, I had like a situation that I wanted ChatGPT to help me with. And so I said, I basically started asking these questions to ChatGPT. I said, is there a Dungeons and Dragons item that can be used to manipulate a dragon? And without going into all the detail of the story, it would make sense if you were in my campaign, but
right. Yeah. I get the gist of what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. So it spilled out. Oh, and by the way, some of my players sometimes listen to the podcast. Stop listening because we haven't gotten to this part of the story. Skip
Spoiler
ahead.
Spoiler
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Skip ahead. The ChatGPT gives me 5 examples of items in Dungeons and Dragons that can be used to manipulate a dragon. It says there's a thing called a dragon orb, a dragon staff, a dragon lance, a ring of dragon control, a helm of dragon command. And then it gave me a little bit of a description of these items. And then I said, the dragon orb sounds cool. Could it be made of Chardalyn? Chardalyn is an element that is introduced in this Icewind Dale campaign that we're playing through right now. It's not like a common item in Dungeons and Dragons. It's just part of this campaign. And you see in my response there, I didn't give ChatGPT any of that information. I just said, could it be made of Chardalyn? And he said, yes, it's definitely possible to have a dragon orb made of Chardalyn in Dungeons and Dragons. Chardalyn is a magical material that was first introduced in Icewind Dale campaign setting. And has since became a popular element in D&D lore. It's a black mineral, and then it gives me some description using Chardalyn to make a dragon orb, yada, yada, yada. Oh, this is interesting. He says, ChatGPT says, using Chardalyn to make a dragon orb would give it some unique properties. For example, the orb could have the ability to store magical energy and spells cast on it, and then release that energy to influence a nearby dragon. The Chardalyn, it gives you it finds a way to work it into this lore. Like it's
that's pretty freaking cool.
So I said, how would you destroy such an item? It gives me some examples of how you could unmake it, all this different stuff. And then I started thinking, well, if my players find this item, I don't want them to carry it for the rest of the campaign. I don't want them to control every dragon they encounter, right?
There's got to be like a stipulation where it's destroyed or something.
Yeah, it only works once or something like that.
It only works once, yeah.
So I said, if I don't want my players to keep the orb, what disadvantage could it bring to deter them from holding it? And then ChatGPT says, if you don't want your players to keep the Chardalyn Dragon Orb in Dungeons and Dragons, there are several disadvantages you could introduce. And it gives me 5 examples with descriptions, but I'm not going to read all that. Dragon's attention, corruption, magic backlash, curse, alignment shift. And then I said, I like option 2. So that was the corruption. Do you have a D100 table I could use for corruption? And then ChatGPT said, certainly. Here's a D100 table of possible corruptions from the Chardalyn Dragon Orb. And it gives me 100 examples.
You can make a whole campaign with this.
I know. It gave me 100 examples that you could roll. So if my players hold on to this thing for too long, then I roll on this table, and it could land on, like one of them is madness. The player becomes insane and may act erratically, irrationally. So, I mean, like, it really is a really cool tool that I think you could use. I mean, I think the possibilities are endless within the realm of game development and
yes, especially if it knows that much about the lore, because
I would have said it without ChatGPT. I would have said, "Oh yeah, the big bad guy has this necklace that whenever you use it, it can call the dragon back." And then my players would have been like, "Okay, we'll call the dragon back." And then they'd be like, "Can it control the dragon?" And I'd be like, yeah, maybe it controls the dragon. You know what I mean? Like I would have gotten caught in this situation where it wouldn't have been, but this made it seem like it came from the campaign material. Like I didn't just make it up. And also I have a way now to keep my players from like holding on to it for too long. But like in the realm of Godot or Unity or RPG Maker game development, like the first example there, if we took that abyssal, I can't remember what it was called again, but if we took that game that it said, okay, here's act 1, here's act 2, you could break that down even further and say, okay, well, within act 1,
right,
what types of puzzles could my player have to solve? Like it could give you all sorts of like ideas for how to develop
it could literally write your game for you, like as far as the storyline goes.
So what do you think the consequences of this will be? Like what do you think? I mean, people are already writing books with it. There's people that basically just
there's literally dads having it write like bedtime stories for their kids.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, like I've heard all sorts of crap. It's nuts what they're having.
It's not always correct either. By the
no. You do have to fact check, definitely, especially if you're looking for something very specific. For example, like with coding, I've had it give me some examples that are just flat out wrong and don't work at all.
I haven't tried it for any of that yet. My coworker, one of the guys that replaced me at my old job,
right?
He was telling me that he was using it for examples in Power BI, like DAX. Formulas, and I don't know how successful he was. I was just like, oh well.
For examples, right. it's very good. Like if you want an example specifically for what you're doing, other than rather than finding it online and like finding a bunch of crap that means nothing to you, it's it's really good at doing that.
Man, I'm not really scared of it. I think
I'm not either.
I think it still needs enough guidance that like you have to know it. I almost think it's like a new engineer. Like I think that there'll be like a AI chat engineer. Like that'll be a position in the future.
Because, if it's not already, to be honest.
Right, because you do have to kind of tease it a little bit. Like you can't just say, "Bam, make me a horror game." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to.
You have to know how to finesse the words correctly.
Right. It's almost like being an attorney or like some sort of like some sort of manipulation. Like it's like you're trying to talk someone into doing something for you, but like you're leading them there. You're not just like asking them to do this. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like I think it's gonna go really far. I mean, so the only people that I would definitely be worried or at this point about would be like level 1 like tech support people.
Oh yeah, like you're I already know businesses. The company I work for, they use it for not level 1 tech support, but like
knowledge base kind of stuff.
Right? Yeah, like knowledge. Yeah. Like oh, where do I go to request this application on my laptop? That you could ask like a chat bot that. And then they would be able to tell you where, what to do or where to go do that.
Right. But I think it's going to get even more advanced and be able to actually help someone with a certain set of problems. Not now, obviously, but in the future, very soon, near future, I should say. I think it'll be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And, the art thing is a little tricky to me because...
Yeah, the AI art you're saying?
Right. Because... Yeah. I think that, so it does come, I have seen some AI art that look like amazing, look really good. But it is using, in order to be able to do that, it is using a catalog of real artists' artwork without their permission. And it's using that to learn and create, new art. And I think in some cases it's actually using pieces from this other art. And so I think I think that there is a case to be made for they shouldn't be allowed to do that. They shouldn't be allowed to literally reuse pieces of other artwork.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, at this point, I don't feel like AI art is like quote unquote art from a person. You know,
some of it is really good. Some of it is
really good. I will admit to that. Yes, but it's still like it's still not quite. I don't know. There's just something about it that I can't quite.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're looking up. You tell it to make some hands, they're gonna look goofy. But a lot of portraits,
make a turkey hand.
A lot of portraits, a lot of animal hands, a lot of stuff like that. Like they like look, not hands, portraits. I don't know what I said. I meant portraits. Whatever I said, I meant portraits. They look pretty good, but again, I don't know how much of that is reusing some other artist's artwork or is actually. So I think it's okay if it's looking at other artists' artwork and learning how to do it, but then it makes something new. Like that should be okay. Because I mean, it's scary if you're an artist. I think you would still, as an artist, you should sell the fact that like you're a real person that can like listen to someone's wants and needs and meet them better than an AI.
Right.
But I think just from like a legal standpoint, I think it should be okay if it is literally generating a new product, but based on what it learned from these other artists. Well, that's what a human does.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
You know? But if it's actually picking pieces and then manipulating those pieces, I don't know. That's a little.
Yeah, it's a little gray area.
A little gray.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, and like you gotta also look at this aspect of it too. Is it only looking at art, or is it looking at photos and turning them into art?
Yeah, there's a
because that's another form of, you know, like you can take someone's copyrighted photo, create a artwork of it, and I personally would consider that to be plagiarism because it's someone else's photo, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's if it's more than, I can't remember the percentage, but if it's like more than a certain percentage change, then it's considered okay.
Right, but I'm saying like that, literally just reproducing it in an art form.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. If there's certain percentage of change, I get that. That's understandable.
That still applies to what I was saying. Felt wrong to me too, though. So all that stuff's written in such a way that it's like intentionally vague.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had another idea and I lost it. Oh, so there was this drawing app I used one time where. If you're just trying to get better and better at drawing faces, there's like a website that will generate a different. You just hit generate, it makes a new person, and it's all AI driven, and it is crazy. Like you'll look at it, and you'll be like, I think I've seen that guy. Like I think that guy made my sandwich this morning.
That guy works at Walmart.
Yeah. Like I know that guy. Like that's a real guy. But it's all AI generated. It's all.
How much does AI actually know me? Is he in my mind?
Actually, it's not AI. They're just stealing like some kind of like footage from all these different places.
Yeah, they're in the security cameras.
Yeah, they're just stealing faces from security cameras and calling it AI generated. Well, I don't know if anybody out there listening, if they, for one thing, if you want to make that Abyssal game, although I'm considering it, then just let us know.
Hey, two people can make it. And
yeah, there you go.
You could go totally different ways, and it could be awesome both ways.
Yeah, if you make that game or you make some kind of content based on that, let us know so we can talk about it on the podcast and do some sort of promotion.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to do that.
My dilemma right now with my game, and the reason why I was asking ChatGPT those questions is, so I set out to make a survival horror game, and I'm actually doing pretty good, except for I'm really good at setting the character programming up. I'm really good at like working out how to make keys and doors and stuff like that. Where I'm struggling is like actually just building an environment, like building a.
Yes, you know, I feel the same way, even with RPG Maker.
So that's where I need help. If anybody listening knows how to do that, let me know. But like I'm also kind of second guessing whether this is what I should be putting time into, because there's a bunch of survival horror games have come out recently. Like I follow the indie subreddit for indie game developers, and every week there's a new survival, and they're way better than what I can make. You know what I mean? So like I'm like, should I really be making a survival horror? I really want to make that type of game, but I'm trying to think, well, how can I do that but make it a little different? And so that's what led me down the road of like, well, maybe if it was like a medieval survival horror or like a fantasy survival horror where you
no
have
guns allowed.
Yeah, you have melee, but then that takes away from, because part of the survival aspect is that, like, there's a limited, especially in like classic survival horror, that there's a limited quantity of bullets, and so you're trying
to make the weapons degrade, and you can't repair them.
Damn, so you're good. I didn't even have to ask ChatGPT that.
I am ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's
ask me anything.
That's a good. You have some sort of crafting system. This is it. This is it right here. You just made it for me.
Dude, I think of that because like every single game that has one of those degradation systems, if it's not perfect, I will get rid of it in the game because I can't stand like having to constantly renewing my freaking weapons when I'm like, oh yeah, I got this boss. Oh, I forgot to renew my weapons. Whatever.
Well, in a game like, I'm not trying to make a Dark Souls game. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to make something that's like super difficult, but I want it to feel like you have limited resources. Like you can only make so many.
Yeah. So you almost have to have like a level of strategy to it. But
you could have weapons that have bolts and arrows. I mean, there could be a limited supply of those.
You definitely could have that. Yep. But I would definitely to combat the the stealth archer thing that everyone seems to do in every game. I would very limit the arrows.
Well, what you could do is some dungeon masters. Being a dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons is like my biggest influence to making video games.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that helping definitely.
Some dungeon masters play, and I really like this. Although my current players, again, if you're listening, skip ahead, because I'm about to insult you, because they don't like that type of. I've played in a game before where I like the idea that like when I shoot an arrow, I roll a dice to see if I could retrieve it. And
okay.
Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Or if I throw a pole arm, like maybe
I was that makes me so mad in games when I'm like shooting all these arrows into this dude and I get like 3 back. I'm like, come on, I shot 50.
Well, I don't want to make a game that just pisses people off, but I don't know.
No, there's definitely a level that you can do.
Yeah.
I personally, like I said, would rather have scarce arrows than have like unlimited arrows and like have them all just break when they hit the target.
Yeah, I think there should be more than enough to complete the game. But so that's I think that's the trick, is like you're teetering on this line of like giving the player enough that they can succeed. That it has to be possible.
Right,
succeed.
Of course.
And I don't want to say overwhelmingly possible, but it has to be like, like, again, I'm not trying to make Dark Souls. Like it needs to be completely plausible that you have everything you need to succeed in the game, but still feels scarce. Like that's the balance I'm trying to ride.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe I should make this abyssal game. I don't know. I might work on that one a little bit more. Maybe this one's not such a bad idea. I kind of feel like I shouldn't have read it on the show. No, really. If someone wants to make it or contribute to it in some way, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I definitely have to get back into my RPG Maker stuff because, so for me, I feel like Godot or Unity are too advanced for me as far as right now goes.
It's really not. So if I were using Unity straight out of the box, then it would be. But I'm cheating a bit because I'm using add-ons that make the coding part easier. Right.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it. But my thing is I got to come up with a game. I'm kind of just like screwing around with it right now.
That's what ChatGPT's for, baby.
Right. What? I know that's it. Well,
this actually probably makes more sense to be made in RPG Maker. This
I mean, yeah, I definitely would need to like look into like the asset side of it because like if you only use RPG Maker assets, you're very limited.
Yeah.
And to add assets in, it's very complicated.
So to a certain degree, I'm an artist. I've never made any assets for a game before, but like I can do digital art, and I've watched videos on people that draw their own tile sets for RPG Maker.
Yeah,
and I mean, it looks like something that I could do. I don't know. Maybe
I looked into it. But
we should make Abyssal Gate, bro.
I'm like so not creative that like I'm just like horrible at any kind of artwork, like just absolutely horrible. I'm like doing the legwork, man. Like that's my aspect that I like to do is just doing all the work of it.
In all honesty, it's what I should be committing my time to. Like I'm pretty decent at it, but I don't dedicate enough time to really get really good.
Yeah, I got you.
And I'm like better at it than I am at podcasting. So really, it's what I should be. It's what I should be committing. It's what I should be committing my time to. But
there we go, digital artwork. You can be better than the AI. That's the slogan now.
Be better.
Crowbar Colonel Panic. Be better than the AI.
I'm gonna think about this, man. Maybe we should try to make it an RPG Maker instead of Unity or Godot. Godot is kind of a middle ground because
see, I never really looked into it that far, so I don't know what it's like.
I'm downloading it now.
I'm just doing it.
I'm literally clicking on download. All right. Well, I don't want.
There goes the stream.
I don't know what else we have to talk about.
I think we did pretty good.
I actually do too. I think it was pretty interesting.
This is a fun one.
The only thing, have you gotten any new tech recently? The only thing I was going to add in was a small tech purchase that I did.
So for me, not really. I'm all I could say is I'm going to be revamping my entire like network in my house. But that's just like that's a work in progress.
That'll be fun to talk about though. I was really into that a few years ago, and I would like to get back into it. When we moved to the new house, I didn't want to drill anything, but I've been watching videos of people running cables because, you know, I worked at Geek Squad and I learned to run certain cables and walls and from, you know, the attic and stuff like that. But I never learned to go from like the first floor to the second floor, like in a two-story house. And so I watched some videos on how to do that. And I'm thinking about redoing the network in this house, but it would be such a big project that I want to do it when I don't have anything else on the docket. And
I know what you mean.
Too many other things that I'm thinking about doing, but
so
I
like,
want to do that.
Like this guy, I mean, obviously people on the podcast can't hear see us, but this guy's like a little mini PC. This is going to be like my PF Sense box once I get that going for my router, because my current router for my server says that my server has 2 IP addresses, and I cannot get it to forget the one it thinks it is. So I'm just like, this is my chance to revamp my entire network. So that's going to happen in the future.
That's actually what I did in 2020. That's funny. Whenever the work from home stuff first started and we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, 2
weeks.
I started building a PF Sense. Actually, I did OpenSense.
Yeah, OpenSense.
And I think that I did that and then decided I should just do PF Sense, and I switched to PF Sense because there was more documentation on PF Sense. But
I mean,
it's pretty cross. Like you can almost read the documentation for either. They're so similar. Like they're like essentially the same thing. As a matter of fact, I think PF Sense is a fork of OpenSense, right? Or is it the other way
around? That's a good question. I actually don't know that answer to that one.
I know that
it's one or the other. I know that.
Leo will leave it in the comment which one it
is. Yeah, I think PF Sense came first, and then OpenSense broke off from it because PF Sense got too, I don't know, whatever. You know how things go with that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, as far as that goes, like I almost always go with the more like mainstream one because I always try to do the open source one and it never works as well. Like it gets like 80% there, and then the rest of it just.
I'm like 90% sure. I don't remember why, but I'm like 90% sure that I started with open, and then there was some weird thing and I switched. But I'm like 90% sure that was the case. But I'd love to do it again. Right, I have an Ubiquiti router right now, but I'm just using it out of the box, no changes. Like I don't have anything.
Yeah, I got a switch and a AP that I have. I run a controller on my server, so
yeah, I have. I just have like a out of the box Ubiquiti router that came with an AP, and you basically just plug them up and they connect. But it's not extravagant, but I want to do like the APs and the ceiling like you have, and all that. All right, well, but I
was gonna say, where's your tech, man? I need to see it.
I've already moved on past it now, and so it's not going to be that interesting. But I picked up a Kindle Paperwhite.
Oh, nice. Okay. I've always kind of wanted to like get into those ones, but like I always ended up buying the stupid LCD regular ones.
Right. That's what I was going to say. So right now I don't have a tablet because I gave my tablet to my son because his broke and mine was like pretty old. And I was like researching, well, what tablet do I want to get? And you know, I wanted to do more than reading, but the main thing I wanted it for was for reading. And I really just, every time I would look into getting a tablet that had an LCD screen, I would just think, but I don't want to read on this thing all day. And so I kind of just decided that the Kindles are cheap enough that you can buy a device that is just made for that purpose.
Purpose built.
Yep. And it's literally all it does. That's the thing. It's like when I got it, I was like compelled to look at it and you know, go to the home screen and then look, but it does nothing. It does nothing but sell you books and read books. That's like all it does. And so I've found myself reading more because I do get that urge, like the urge you get to look at your phone. I do that with this where I'm like, I just want to pull it out and look at it. And then it's like, but what am I going to do? I guess I'll read another chapter. Yeah. I've read more since I got this thing. And you know, I was a reader before. I read 14 books last year.
Wow.
And
that's impressive, dude, because like I don't read almost at all except for documentation stuff.
I was the same way. Last year was the year that kicked it off for me. And I was the exact same way until last year. I had a goal to read 10, and then I started doing that podcast, and that kicked it into high gear to read more and more. But yeah, I can say that this has encouraged me. Oh, and that's also including audiobooks. I started out, I could not make myself sit down and read a book. And it's probably the way you feel. I think a lot of people are in this boat.
I just don't have time. That's my thing.
That's exactly what I said. And you're not wrong. We live busy lives. That's just how it is. Only time I would read was when I was sitting on the toilet. And I just don't need to sit on the toilet enough to get through a whole book. Right. So like it would take, like I would never finish a book.
Legs are going numb, falling off the
toilet. And so I started listening to audiobooks on the drive to work because I used to have a really long commute to work and like an hour both ways. And right. I would listen to 2 or 3 chapters a day. And then it got to the point where I was so interested in those stories that at home I would be like, well, I want to read the book, but like I don't want to just sit back and like listen to an audiobook. So I would try to do things and listen, but like unless I'm driving, I can't like do something else and listen to an audiobook. I can't follow it. I can follow it when I'm driving, but I can't like, you know, clean a room or something like that. And so that's what got me into, okay, well, I'm going to set aside 30 minutes and just read. And then I would read and I'd say, well, I got to get to the end of the chapter. That way, when I get back in my car, I know where to start the audiobook. And now, like, there was a day that Becca and my son went to something, and they were gone for like 4 or 5 hours. And like the whole time they were gone, I put on reading music and I read the whole time they were gone. And that was like the most.
I can't even think of doing that. Like that just. To me personally, that feels like a waste of time. Not that for you, like I understand, I get you doing it, but for me personally, doing it,
I completely get it. I used to also be in that same space, and even recently, like last night, I sat at my computer and I was gonna play a game, but I was like, I really would just rather just read.
That's amazing.
Chapter. Yeah, I'm telling you, it was.
That's like I can't even fathom that.
And so like you see the books on the shelf behind me. I've read a few of those, but for the most part, they're just there because I wanted a copy of the book. But I've really been reading them on here.
So how harsh is the screen on that? Like the brightness? Like can you like adjust it pretty granularly?
I have it set to auto right now, so auto adjusts. Okay. Yeah, you can set it, but then. Most of the time I keep it on this dark mode.
They have a dark mode. Yes.
Yeah. I usually keep
for
it
me.
On that. Believe it or not, there actually is times though where I'll be reading on, if I'm like outside or something, then
I get that.
Me. Yeah. Well, so I don't know. I'm super into it. And,
hey, that's good.
I still want to get a tablet, but, I just want a cheap tablet.
You're pretty much like stuck with Apple. That's like it, because everything else is kind of trash, to be honest.
I like the one I like is too expensive. I'm not gonna buy it, but the tablet that I was really close to trying to buy was the Samsung Galaxy 11 Elite or something like that. It's the new Samsung Galaxy Tab with a nice. I thought, I'll use it with a drawing stylus, but you know, I've had tablets with drawing. I usually don't draw on a tablet. There's people that do, and more power to those people. But yeah, I'm not that guy. All right, I guess we'll round out the episode.
Yep, sounding like it.
All right, hopefully our schedules are getting back on track, and we will do another episode shortly. I'm going to play with Godot between now and the next episode.
Okay,
and
cool.
I'll talk about it. Right now, I'm not feeling like I'm going to come back next week and say, "Oh man, I'm switching everything to Godot, and I'm only gonna develop on that." But I'm gonna play around with it and see what it's like. I think I will probably still be sticking with Unity just because I'm already invested. But we'll see how it goes. And if anybody out there wants to work on Abyssal Gate,
yeah,
let us know. All right, and peace.